Welcome to the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy podcast. My name is Wanaka Oberhuber, and I am your host. My guest today is Ronald Taylor, or Ron Taylor. Hi.
Hi.
So happy to have you here. It's really great.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're one of many, and we're going to have loads of wonderful people on the podcast. It's going to be great. I'm so psyched. So let's start with a wonderful question. How did you come to see the world the way you do today?
Well, that was quite a journey. Life is all about the journey, not the destination. And just a series of events that have happened throughout my life have led me to where I am today. 2 years ago, I'm coming up on 2 years, I quit my corporate job of 20 years that I've been involved with and said to hell with that. I wasn't getting anywhere. So I decided I wanted to live on the road and travel around the country, around the U.S. And over the years, I got to 20. This year, I celebrated 21 years clean and sober. So I've had a lot of experience with connecting with God, which I look at as good, orderly direction. And it's led me on this path. I believe in manifesting, prayer, meditation, and the things that, like Taoism and stuff, the more Wayne Dwyer says, if you don't like the way you view things, if you change the way you view things, the things you view will change, right? So changing my perspective on how I look at things, and I just love everybody and let go and let God and just have faith. I believe that everything's going to be all right. And through this, like different things have just, the law of attraction, like different things have just come into my life, and like, I'm okay. Like I had no idea 2 years ago where I would end up, or I had no plan. Like I was just going, like that was it. And then this past year, I've always felt connected with God and stuff, and source, universe, whatever you want to call it. And the last couple of years, I've been following different churches and pastors. And when I came to Phoenix this past winter, I started exploring different churches and seeing like what I felt attracted to or whatever. And I found one that the pastor made Genesis sound interesting. So I'm like, I don't know, but I just felt connected and with the church and the people and the whole environment. And come Easter, Good Friday was my birthday, and I turned 61. And so I was like, you know what, it's time. I want to get baptized. So Easter, I got baptized, and ever since then, my life is just, it's gotten even better. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but everything's been happening to me in a good way, you know? So yeah, that's what led me to, and over the years, it's been an eclectic belief of different things, Buddha, Hindu, Native American, all these different spiritual things, because no matter where you are in the world, their spiritual beliefs we're all the same. Like all the beliefs point to the same thing. We end up with like a God, and by viewing the world in that perspective and like, how can I help people? How can I share my love and care for people? I don't care who you are, where you came from, or what you are, or what you've been through. I want to help, so, and I just love everybody the same, and by doing that, my world has just gotten so much better now. Hope that answers the question.
It certainly gets us started on the conversation. That's wonderful. So yes, A Course in Miracles also has this thought that you need to love all, and all are equal. And by loving, you can only love by loving all. You cannot love if you can't love. If you're not loving all, it's not that same thing, right? It's not that same feeling. So you're expressing that, and I think that's really beautiful. And I would like to hear some examples of how that works for you, how you turn to loving all, how you can live that.
Oh, there's many examples. People, when you interact with people, sometimes the person at the cash register or in general, sometimes people respond or react like they're in a bad mood or they're angry or something. And I I am training myself to not judge and like just send love anyway. Like, okay, you have that day, I pray for you and send love to you. And, you know, um, encountering homeless people, that's another thing, instead of giving them a hand out, I believe in giving a hand up, is a good example. And then you go to the other end of the spectrum of people that are billionaires, millionaires, or whatever, and they can be just as miserable as somebody sleeping in a gutter. So, you know, examples being, I send out love to everyone, like when I pray, and um, that's just how, so no matter where you are, who you are, where you come from, I'm sending you love. That's the only way to be. And by doing that, it relates back to me. So
Yeah, that's very beautiful, and I think that's very significant that you've turned to choosing to feel love where you might have in the past judged and taken someone down in your mind, at least, right? Or even yourself, probably must have changed a lot about how you see yourself as well.
oh, absolutely. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are energy, and I believe in the energy of the formless substance. So what I think about is what I'm going to become, as James Allen said in his book, As a Man Thinketh. So the whatever thoughts I'm putting out there is what I'm going to get back. So if I'm looking at you and I'm saying, "Who the hell is this?" Blah blah blah, or whatever, it's going to come back to me because people are going to look at me and go the same thing. So if I'm saying like, "Oh, Wanako is like, he's a really cool dude," and like putting on this podcast and like trying to help unify the world, so to speak, right? So yeah. um, yeah, I just went blank. Sorry.
Yeah, you were giving the example of how it is when you choose to think beautiful thoughts about people, how that affects the way you see yourself.
Oh yes, like okay, thank you. Yeah, when you look in the mirror, how do you see yourself? Do do I carry myself as being depressed and bummed out and angry, or do I want to be happy, joyous, and free, and emanate that energy? Like when I travel around the country and when I go into different places or whatever, sometimes I feel like I'm the mayor. I don't know. People just come up to me and it's like it's so amazing. Like, and also a good example is anybody like if you look at somebody and you just smile, they smile back. And not everybody. Some people they just got that permanent puss on their face or whatever. But I believe like the thoughts I'm thinking and how I think and carry myself and how I behave is the energy that comes around me, like that everybody senses and feels. So it's important to carry on that way with, unconditional love and judgment. So it definitely changes how, when you start looking at things that way, it changes your whole perspective. I came from being very judgmental, angry. I would be revengeful. Like, if you pissed me off or robbed me or something, I would be thinking like, I'm going to get even somehow, I'm going to get back at you or whatever. For example, a couple of weeks ago, my wallet got stolen. My own fault. For one thing, I left my wallet in my truck. It was out of sight, the other thing was I forgot to lock it that night. I always lock my vehicles, especially where I was at. There's a lot of homeless people walking through the area, and they check their doors to see if they're unlocked. And as soon as I realized what had happened, and after calling the guard and all that stuff and freaking out, then I started praying for the person. I'm like, I hope they got what they needed, and I hope they find their way to God and to a better way of life. If that's what they choose to do. I know everybody's circumstances are different, especially with the homeless. Whether it's addiction or just a major loss and they don't know how to turn that around. And some are like mentally challenged and have issues. So there's different spectrums of those types of things. But when my wallet got stolen, I went publicly and I said, you know what? I pray for this guy. I hope this person finds what they need. And, that's all I can do, because I'm not going to get the wallet back. I'll never see the person again, So that's the way I roll nowadays. It's the way Ron rolls.
Yeah, I think another significant thing you shared was that since 20 years you got away from alcohol, right? From drugs or alcohol. I would like to hear a little bit more of how you decided to stop, and then how the process was, whether what the challenges were, and how you um, came to where you are now in that process.
It's a Well, let's put it this way. I tried for over 35 years, 34 years. And finally, I got sick and tired of living the way I was living, which was dying. I mean, why do I want to keep putting a substance in my body? And then through that, I quit smoking cigarettes, and then I started, like recently, the last 3 years or so, I came on to mindset. I'm a mindset life coach. So learning how to control your thoughts, like what's going on between our ears, is a game changer. When you learn to let go, and you learn to have faith, and you learn to believe in yourself, when you look in the mirror and you like what's looking back at you, as opposed to when I was an addict and caught out, I would look in the mirror and I would see an empty shell. Like, who am I? Who is this person? And now I feel unstoppable, unshakable, like anything, you know, whatever happens to me, like my wallet gets stolen, you get a flat tire, you get, things, you get T-boned on the highway or something. I don't know, but things happen. So it's not what I'm training and coaching people on in today's world is it's not the things that happen to me, but it's what I do with them when they're handed. Now I could sit there and say, yeah, I'm an addict. Why do I do that? Because I'm an addict. That's what I do, or finding excuses or blaming, pull out the blame thrower and like, all right, it's because of this, because of them, blah, blah, blah. And that wouldn't have happened if they didn't do this or they didn't say that or because of what was on the news or, whatever. I don't believe in outside circumstances. I believe in controlling my own environment or what's going on in my head. And that's what makes the big difference of overeating, gambling, sex, whatever it is, that's how addiction is. Like if you let the best of you, like emotional eating, things like that, binge watching TV. I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news. So learning to say like, no, I don't need to do this. This is how I am going to go, and just reprogramming my mind, resetting how I think and do things and not let, oh, that's because of this. And yeah, it's okay. Like I don't get sick, like I'm living with my cousin right now and she just tested positive for COVID, but I don't get sick. Like I believe in, well, for one thing, I spell pharmaceutical with an F, and I'm a firm believer in keeping my immune system built up, and I take certain precautions. I exercise daily. I read scripture daily. I pray and meditate, and I believe all these things affect how we think and do things. So controlling the mindset, and we can be, do, and have anything you want as long as you got, setting your mind up here. And I could go deeper in that too, but.
Well, I'd like to ask a question that I think is very relevant to this, because you're speaking of mindset and what you can do yourself to change your mind or set the stage for what you're going to experience. Now, the other thing is, how about guidance? You're speaking of faith. You are interested in connecting with God and so on. How does that play in? Because you're speaking of what you can do, but what role does faith and guidance that comes from within play in this whole thing?
Well, I have my number one mentor is God, and I believe in Jesus, and I have a life coach, and then I have accountability partners, people that I associate with and network with that hold me accountable for the things that I say I'm going to do and things like that. And as well as family and friends that I am in contact with, constant contact. Because my big vision is to bring unity back into community. So the more and that involves a lot of different things like communication and understanding and, interpreting the language, right? There's different, that's not what I meant, that's not what I said, that kind of stuff. But as far as, yeah, I'm not doing this alone by any means. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could say that, but no. The force or the energy that's around us is, being accountable and like being with people and talking to God. I mean, the first thing I do the first thing I do in the morning when I first wake up or open my eyes is I express my gratitude. And some days, I'll be honest, there's been times I've been depressed or not feeling, up to like, oh, let's go, and I just express my gratitude is I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful I woke up today, There's been days like that, and that's, but expressing gratitude and being thankful to the Lord and like, bringing to the life I have, the health I have all my faculties, my digits, all my functions. I'm perfectly healthy. I'm training to be a triathlete right now. At 61 years old, I just started training, and I'm like, I'm so grateful, and attitude, the mindset and attitude goes a long way, just look how it is. Like if you go the other way, if you're negative and you have a poor attitude. Why me? I call it the Eeyore syndrome, in Winnie the Pooh. Eeyore, he's like, wow, woe is me, poor me, They always got those people that have the black cloud that's always following them, like, oh, this shit always happens to me. So I believe a lot of that is the energy that we put out from the thoughts that we have and how we think and view things. So if you look at the glass, is the glass half full or is the glass half empty?
Yeah, that's a big pointer there to the way you do this and the way you view this. And I would like to add something that you might want to comment on. How about the idea that who we are is not in dispute, but who we think we are is the one that you are able to change your mind about. And by doing that, you can get closer to remembering who you actually are, because that's not in dispute.
That could get very profound. Yes. I think because of the business I am in, I'm in the business of helping people expand their minds beyond their limited beliefs, right? To create and become the master of their own universe. So it's not how I see myself, it's how the image that I create that I want people to see, like what you see now, and I'm just a spiritual being having a human experience, right? I mean, that's what it boils down to, and how people, I know I'm nobody. I'm just a little grain of sand on a beach, pretty much, in this whole vast universe. But I do know how I carry myself and how I perceive myself and see myself, without coming across as vain or a big ego or anything like that, because I'm not. I stay humble. Ego means edge God out. So I know that if walking around and carry myself with a smile and give that good vibe and a good energy, that's all I need to do. That brings into another, if I may, speaking into, does the clothes make a man or does the man make the clothes? Or a person, I should say, to be correct, because it could be a woman as well. So does the person make, what you're wearing? Does that make you a better person because you got a 5-piece suit on or a nice dress or outfit or something and nice, makeup or whatever, what I call fake up. But, or are you real and what's in your core, your center? This is the real me. You know what I mean? I could be sitting here naked. It's I'm still me, right? It's or I could be all dressed up and sure, certain occasions and things like that, festivities or whatever you want to dress up, it's understandable. Or taking a portrait or something like that. But day-to-day life, I love the success stories of people that became very successful, millionaires and whatnot, and they live their life in T-shirts and sandals. I freaking love that, as opposed to the ones that become successful and they're all they got the suit and the tie on and they're all prim and proper, but they got this huge ass ego, but inside they're no heart. There's no core in them, So being down to earth and creating the image of, if we're created in God's image, then we need just to be down to earth and natural as possible. That was a good question.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a lot to it, right? And there's a lot about the difference between specialness and equality in A Course in Miracles. There's a lot of statements about that. And I think that's what we need to be aware of. We are equal, and we are all infinitely valuable in the mind of God. So God isn't making a difference between us, right? So we're all fully versed, fully capable, and we all have a special function and a purpose as we live these lives, as you said, a spiritual being having a human experience. Yeah, having a human experience. In that human experience, everyone has their special function, but that doesn't mean that they're better than someone else. We are all equal.
That's absolutely correct. Like that's the best way to view things. Like I think I started off saying that. Like we're all one and the same. We all have the same basic needs and functions. We all need to eat, sleep, food, water, shelter. We all need these. That's why I don't care what language you speak, what country you live in, what religion you are. It doesn't matter. We're human, and that's you know we all need the same basic needs, whether it's vegetarian, plant based, or you're a meat eater. It doesn't matter. Like, and what, who you bow down to or whatever. But the bottom line is that's why I said my big vision is bringing unity into community. Like, there's no reason why this faction, that faction, like we can't all just like compromise and get along somehow. Like you do you, I'll do me. And in the middle, we'll sit down and break bread and have a conversation. We'll talk sports or something. I don't know, whatever, or the weather.
Yeah, that's a good point to be aware of this willingness to recognize that we all want to be perfectly happy, and we all are willing, if we are, of course, to engage in that conversation, right? Because we all can offer each other the means that we have in us. We all have the full means, but recognizing it in each other, we can walk each other home, as A Course in Miracles says. And that's what's so beautiful. That's how we bond, right? Not because one of us is less or more than the other, but because we all are full and complete. Because as you described it in the language of saying we are created in the image of God, right? But yeah, that I use a different language often, but that's a good description of it. Yeah.
So I'm supposed to respond or um yeah, it's the way you view things. If we all learn to look at the world, you know, as equals and we're all the same, granted, with that though, there's, the different opinions, uh, different viewpoints, and there's always going to be that, because that's what keeps balance. Like, despite of all what goes on and how we think and view things, we got to keep in mind there's good and bad, and you can't have light without dark. You can't, it. Um, and like I said, it's like how what do you want to feed? What you want to be or how you want to be that. You could be evil or whatever. You can go that way, but there's also for every good, there's I believe in like a balance of that. Um, It's like, you know, the story with the good wolf and the bad wolf, and the the grandpa was telling the son, you know, about the good wolf and the bad wolf in all of us. We all have that. And the grandson asked, you know, which uh, which wolf is stronger? And the grandfather said, the one you feed the most. So we all have an innate superpower within us of being able to do whatever we want. We can be whatever we want. We can have whatever we want. How you get that, and like if you want to become wealthy, if you figure out ways of scheming and scamming and robbing people, then you'll get wealthy, but it won't be sustainable. But if you want to get wealthy through the proper means of providing a service and doing the right things to help people and things like that, that will be, it'll take, you know, take you a while to get there, but it'll be more sustainable by doing the right things. So yeah, that's a good example of, you can steal the money or you can earn the money, is a good example of that with good and evil. So
Yeah, there's a lot to say about these things. Anyways, in A Course in Miracles, it speaks of there's two voices you can listen to. One that isn't real in truth, but is always providing you with reasons to feel separate, right? So it's a separation thought. And then there's the other one that is always providing the view that we are one, right? And that we are whole and that we are complete and that there's nothing missing, that all is well, right? And there's always a path for each and every one to be completely and fully provided for and happy, right? And that not by taking anything away from anyone else, because that would be the idea of separation. You don't need to take something from someone to have it. You can actually give and you get more by giving. It says, you know, the more you need, if you want to learn something, then teach it, right? By doing it, right? By being it, right? So, and so on. So give what you want to keep is what A Course in Miracles says. So if you want to keep something, give it. That's the way you can actually own it.
you can't keep what you have unless you give it away. And the more knowledge that we learn, that's another thing. I got stuck in perpetual learning mode. So I was like, always like, oh, I got to learn this. I got to read that. I got to study this, da, da, da. But I was not applying it and teaching it. So the more I teach and coach people and help people, the more I learn, and the more other people. I believe in leaving people with increase, like always bringing value to other people, you know, and that's how we help each other grow and lift each other up. And so,
Yeah, that's the beauty of this opportunity, right? To share. And that's how that's one thing that having a podcast and having guests, every guest brings wonderful things to the plate, right? And provides us with wonderful inspiration, right? Or if it's not inspiration, at least authenticity that we can derive our own conclusions from and grow from, right? And that's amazing. And so I've been also, I am now a guest on podcasts as well and other people's YouTube channels and so on. So it's beautiful to be able to give what you have. And you know, there was in the past, I probably was like many other people, you know, if I give, I will have less, right? Or they will steal my ideas or this and that, right? But the idea grows because you give it and not because you withhold it or try to be secret about it.
yes, I believe in as we collaborate with different people, bringing unity into community is a form of collaboration. And I believe in the more I collaborate with people, we learn how to be creative, not competitive. I'm not competing with other mindset life coaches or and by any means. In fact, I would absolutely like refer you to one of my collaborators, one of my associates. I would just say, hey, maybe you're a better fit with so and so or something like that. That's what I believe, like helping each other out in that way. And another thing with the giving part, there's a series of books by Bob Berg, and I forget the other co-author, but called Go Giver. And it's so true with people that become successful. They learn how to give what they have in order to get, to grow more and, be where they want to be. So, and learning how to give and help people out it promotes us or gets us to another level of being as opposed to taking.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That we have that ability to give, right? And to treasure that, to treasure our ability to give what is most valuable to us, right? Because that's how we are really authentically giving what is valuable to us, and therefore it grows, and it grows not only in me but in everyone who picks it up and says, "Ooh, this is something I like. I can use," right? So I would like to open the stage. Anyone who has a comment or question, just raise your hand, and Ron will be happy to comment or share about it or talk with you about it. Go ahead.
Hi, Ron. Thank you for sharing everything. I wondered, how did you come to this insight? You said you're on a journey traveling around. What did something happen to kind of open up this higher awareness in your life? Or how did you get on this journey?
Yeah, things just turned out the way they did. That's a good question. At one point, several years ago, I was in a relationship, marriage, that I wasn't happy in, and I figured there's more to life than living in the box. You live in a box, you pack your box lunch, you go to the box job, that kind of thing. And I guess I'm sort of free spirited. So what led me to, I started following people on YouTube that were nomads and living that lifestyle of traveling around, because I always wanted to travel around. And the relationship or the divorce, we got divorced and everything, and all that ended. And then I decided, it's time to go live my dream. And like I said in the beginning, I had no clue where I was going, what I was going to do. I live with uncertainty, but that's the invigoration of it. It gives me a drive. Like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just going to do it. Like, boom, but what compelled me to doing that was being free and not being chained down, so to speak. And I just believe, I started off searching happiness, but through the journey, I learned that happiness comes from within. So I'm learning a lot by doing this journey. And for some reason, I felt like Spirit was moving me and telling me to try this, to just do what you want or follow your dreams and not just stay stuck in that chain, the chains that bind us. I believe we all have the same opportunity to live free and be happy, be abundant, prosperous, however we want to live. We all have that same drive, or we all deserve to live that way. I honestly believe we were not born and put on this planet to be a slave, right, so to speak, to the system. So, and I must say the other thing, many, many years ago, I go to a homeopathic doctor and I was explaining to her how I felt and stuff. And she says, "You sound like Henry David Thoreau." And I'm like, "Who?" So I got the book Walden, and I realized, this dude, okay. And I started to understand, like, when life gets so complicated and like relationships, jobs, whatever, life stuff gets so like overwhelming or complicated, and what Thoreau said was to turn to nature. Nature is perfect by nature, and just be with nature and feel the energy of that around you. And that was like a really compelling thing for me. I was very attracted to that. I was like, I love being in nature. Like everywhere I go, I hike and I just go out and just be alone in nature. And just every morning I listen to the birds or whatever, whether I'm hiking in the desert or in the mountains or along the beach, wherever I am, I go hiking. And to me, that gives me that purpose in life. You know what I mean? Like I feel grounded when I'm with nature. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what compelled me to do it. Is I wanted to feel free and be grounded with myself, and find my true happiness. So
Okay,
that's
yeah,
what,
thank you.
yeah.
It sounds
Throw.
like it sounds like the relationship, the ending of your marriage, you recognize that it was preventing you from being able to express, this new direction of yours. You had to make a change.
Yeah, that was, it was, there was the relationship itself. I mean, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, I think my point is that it was just interesting to hear you talk, because relationships can make us get off track if we don't, pay attention to our needs and them. And, it's just very interesting to hear you talk about it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, it's interesting that's a good point though. Life, different things show up in us, and like a traumatic experience. Like a year ago, I lost both my parents, and I don't have any home address anymore, so finding myself in this journey as well is part of this. But Thoreau is the big pusher that got me going. And I got stories to go with that as well, but I'm not going to elaborate too much.
Any other questions, comments, or insights that you'd like to share, any of you? Okay. Then I'll ask another question. You were speaking of nature and how natural and how free you feel in nature. Do you get into some states of mind where you get still, or you have insights or thoughts that come up that help you on in your, or whatever, or guidance that pushes you to the next place or to the next thing that you're going to do, or gives you insight for the next client or whatever?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I don't watch TV. I don't pay attention to the news, things like that. I rarely watch like a movie or something. Um, and I get all my inspiration through being just sitting still and being quiet. I learned that many years ago when I first got clean, actually, when I was learning how to like meditate and stuff. And to be able to sit in a room by yourself, all alone, with no electronics. And at first, I was using a candle, the flame of a candle, to stare at, to learn how to focus my meditation on that. Since then, I can pretty much be in a crowd and I can like zone out. Like I don't know, it's kind of amazing to me. But listening and seeing different things in nature are signs, and I believe like they're communicating. Like when you listen to the birds chatter or something or whatever and things like that. I swear, like sometimes when I'm like, I like to exercise outside, and I swear sometimes there's birds that come in the branch and like they're like laughing at me or something, like, or making. But no, definitely being and listening to the sounds like the waves splashing on a beach or a babbling brook, you know, anything that's tranquil and surreal, and being alone and the silence of it. Uh, Definitely, I've gotten a lot of good insight and inspiration through that. Like, what do you say? Aha moments, you know, like, oh, that's it, you know, because when you're sitting there trying to think and figure something out, it's like, and then you go for a walk and like, and just relax and like learning to relax and just being with you is the best thing. Like, that's when you really get connected. So,
Yeah, I've had a lot of insights by having conversations with people or talking about things. Is that something that also dr- draws the best out of you when you are able to talk with other people about various things that are inspire you, or things that are difficult for you, and then you talk about it? Does that lead to more insight as well, not just the bonding with nature, but the bonding with people, human beings?
yes, absolutely. I'm all about like networking and collaborating. So the more I interact with people and bounce ideas off and things like that, the I get their perspectives, their opinions, their thoughts. Definitely makes a big difference. And I'm very extroverted by nature, but I love my alone time as well. I cherish my alone time. But I also, like I said, I'm like the mayor. I can walk into a room and like people just, talk to me, or I just start talking to people and everywhere I go. And then getting ideas and inspiration. We never know where it's going to come from, but as long as I free my mind and I'm open minded, that things just come to me like, we just never know. Like, oh, that's a good thought, or oh, that's what I got to do. So, yeah, you never know. Sight, sounds, hearing things, anything in our five senses could trigger something.
Yeah, and maybe we want to go into something else you shared before we started a recording about your daily practice of reading in the Bible, for instance. Now, does that trigger insights as well, or do you have a feeling that, like, I've heard it a lot, and many people experience that when they're reading something from a book like that they get these something like a extra insight, as if there's someone else there, right? Like the Holy Spirit or something deeper there that is giving some insights into it and deepening one's experience, one's growth. And as you said, you say all these books and teachings are leading to one place, like you were saying, bringing unity to community, right? How is that supporting that, and what is your experience of that? You must have had many experiences if you're doing this practice every day since a while.
Well, reading the scripture and the living word is new to me. It's I just started doing that a couple of months ago, but the parallels that I started with Genesis, right? So the parallels I see in how our world is today is like, oh my God, just blows my mind. So, and I believe that the scriptures and other literature that is written down is for us to read and learn from, to gain knowledge and learn from those experiences, as to hopefully not repeat them. But yeah, there's sometimes reading the scripture and like, aha moment, and other literature as well. Like right now I'm doing the audio book with, was it Joseph Murphy with The Powers of the Subconscious, and I've listened to many different audio books of the turn of the century when, like, Genevieve Brand, Throward, the powers of our thoughts and things like that. And, to get encouragement and inspiration, like I said, just never know where it's coming from. But I do know when I journal, I believe like my journaling and stuff is like what I write, I can bring to fruition. So once you have a thought in your mind, whatever it is, you wanted to create a podcast and bring people together like this, and then boom, you made it happen. So anybody can do that, like whatever it is, whatever your thought is. And once I have that thought, or once we have that thought of whatever it is, those things to bring that thought to fruition are going to be attracted to you. It's like the same thing as when you plant a seed in the ground, the proper energy and things are going to go to that seed to make that seed sprout. And it's the same thing with our thoughts. If we look at our thoughts as a garden and what we plant in there and how we keep the weeds out, but whatever we plant in there is going to grow, whether it's, a negative thought or a positive, good thought, whatever we plant in there is going to grow and become, and then just keeping it weeded and, so yeah, you want to keep your soil fertile in your mind, like with fresh inspiration and stuff. And I know I don't have all the answers. So that's why listening to people like you and people in the group and other people, I never know what they're going to say or, what inspiration I'm going to get from somebody. And it could be a total like stranger on the street. Who knows? Like somebody I don't even know. Like they'll say something or whatever. I'm like, that's a great idea. Oh, I got to write that down.
Yeah, I've read books like by Norman Vincent Peale is also similar to what you were talking of, So yeah, there's all these books about how to trust in spirit, in God, and Yeshua or Jesus, or whatever you want to use, and how that can back you, right? It can give you this understanding that you can. There is nothing that is impossible, right? Everything is possible. Doesn't mean that you have to be reckless about it, but it means that you need to be willing to allow the possibility that it could work, right? At least for the beginning, right? That it could work out for the best. And so, like you said, pretty much anyone can start a podcast, right? But you have to, you do need to be willing to do it and you will discover how to do it when you are willing, right? And there's many people out there who are willing to help you, right? If you want.
Right. If you look at the way our world is, like everything that's around us was somebody's thought at one time. The things that are behind you on the shelf was all somebody's thought. The things that we're sitting on is somebody's thought. The devices we're doing this on is a thought. The reason, two bicycle mechanics from Ohio had an idea that they can get a device to fly into the atmosphere and defy the laws of gravity and whatnot. And, but look we're flying all over the world now. This other dude, like said, I'm going to invent this device that's going to illuminate the world. And voila, so you got the light bulb, from thank God for Edison. So, but any great inventor like that and people of that nature all started with a thought, so our thoughts become things, and it just depends what you want to do. Like I said early, it was like you can take this power and use it good or bad. You know what I mean? Like I choose to use my powers for good, because I've been on the dark side. I know what that's like. I've been, danced with the devil in the pale moon or whatever. I've been somewhat sociopathic, and all that is turned around for me through a series of events and things happening throughout my life to bring me to the heartfelt, loving, caring person, compassion that I am today. And that's why my mission is to, help people, expand their minds, and go beyond what their limited beliefs of. We get stuck in just, for example, welfare recipients, generation after generation after generation, because they get stuck in that belief. Like, this is the way we live life. Like people like you and I, we see things differently. Like, oh, well, if I change this and do that, then I can get here. As opposed to, oh, this is good enough. I'm content. Yeah, I'm all right. That's good. Or do you want to live more and have more and be more? I think we all need that drive, get out of your chair and get into action, and and anything's possible. Even though we look around us and all this technology and things like that, and well, what can I possibly come up with? For me, I want to bring the world back to keeping it simple. You know what I mean? Simplify our lives. We have an information overload. We have all these devices. I grew up with just a few channels on TV or whatever. I don't even think FM was that big of a thing. It was mostly AM back then. Things like that. Even the phone line, you had the party line, hey, I want to make a phone call. Get off the phone. People don't understand. Dialing 4 or 5 digits to make a phone call. People don't understand that. But Yeah, there's something said with, and that's part of where I'm at this moment is I just got done doing a journey and like get away from the devices and like for one thing I had no cell signal and like I said earlier, like to be with the nothing and just absorb the everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, A Course in Miracles says heaven is within you. So yes, that makes perfect sense in that way.
Yeah, so that's something I'm realizing too. Like the happiness is within us, and the environment and how I, not the environment, the how I think and view things is within me of my perspective. And knowing that heaven is within me, that, and when you think and feel that way, it's like, that's why I feel unstoppable. Like, you know, yeah, sure, things like they knock you off track for a moment or something, but no, wait a minute, I, this is, you know what I mean? As opposed to without this belief or these feelings, like if you got knocked over or knocked off track or whatever, like, oh, you bastard, you pissed me off. That's it, And now it's like, oh, okay, that happened. Like, what do I do now? I'm a solution seeker. We try to be resourceful and find ways of. My metaphor is like, you get a flat tire. What do? Do you sit there and cry about it, or you call roadside service, or you get out and look for the jack and the lug wrench and find the spare tire? Hopefully you have air in it. Um, you know, we got to be solution seekers and be resourceful and like keep things going. Like you just can't sit in your own shit and like, I don't know, but you just can't sit in like your whatever crap and like waller in. It's not going to get you anywhere. You got to be like always like going forward, and that's the only way to go on with life. So
Yeah, there's so much to it, right? There's so much more to it. That's why we could talk about these things forever, right? Anyways.
I think it's important for all of us to get this word out and, like you said, to teach it, talk about it. The more we, in general, the concept, like I said, whether you're this religion or that or whatever, but the bottom line is the more we teach and project these things out on people, I think is an important part of my mission to live a fulfilling life. And yeah, we could go on and on and on. I love it though. We'd need a lot of wood at the campfire.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, that's a good one. Storytelling. That's something I know that I loved when I was a kid. How about you? Did you love storytelling as a kid?
That's part of what my quest is now. Learning like the old ways, like that's how things was passed on from generation to generation. My grandparents used to tell me stories, and every evening or almost every evening was like story time, and carrying on how things were, and to carry on that knowledge. And it's the same thing as reading books and reading scripture and learning the knowledge. We need to carry that on to our offspring and our friends and family and things like that, and not rely on the system, the school system and things like that, especially now where they're like erasing history in so many parts of the world, like especially in America. Well, that's what it seems like to me. Like, oh no, they were slave owners and whatever. That just, and you could talk to or ask anybody that was born in the 2000s and ask them who was in the Civil War, and and or what was it about, or who won the Civil War. They couldn't tell you. They don't even know who was in it. But in America, that was like a huge event. But they're not teaching that. So there's a good example of, we could learn from that, or by teaching it, learning from that. Like, we don't have to do this. We don't have to go this way. So finding a solution to moving on for the better. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also a motor of creativity when you storytelling. So I particularly loved when one joined in storytelling. So one person would start, then the next one would continue the story, and so on and so on. Right. And then you'd come out with a marvelous story that wouldn't have been there without the community doing that together.
I love that. I've never heard it put that way before. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. So start. I'm going to do that. I'm going to gather some people and just like at a coffee shop or have a fire pit or whatever. And out in Arizona here, we don't have too many fires because the fire danger is so high. So you're not even allowed to light a grill or whatever. It's crazy. But no, I love that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Maybe I could do it on a Zoom call or something and start a story, and then the next person. Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, and it really is very inspiring, right? And you can set up your own rules. It's like make believe. So, so you set up your own rules, and then you can change them if they don't work, right? Or if something wants to be changed, then you change them and adapt them. Because there's a whole lot of things that can happen with group storytelling that one person might be offended about and the other might not see it that way, and so on. So that's why you work on the rules. But anyways, I love that, and I'm so happy you love it too, and you're going to do it. That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah. Any questions or comments at this point?
Hi, aloha. Can you hear me? Hi, aloha. I just wanted to say, I'm echoing. Anyway, I just wanted to say, I'm grateful that you're here, and thank you so much. No questions.
Thank you for that.
Go ahead, Matthew.
Just to say thanks, Ron. Thanks for sharing, man. I appreciate that. I especially enjoyed your discussion of nature and being still and getting out hiking and my just a comment. I don't have a question. My comment with regards to revelation, those aha insights are more profound when I'm still and perhaps in nature or wherever. And the ones that I get with other people, with regards to Monica's comment about, also being with others and getting insights with sharing with others. The ones that I get with others are probably much more common, but maybe not as profoundly fantastic as when I'm alone and I get a revelation type sort of that clearly comes from a relationship with something that is just beyond anything that I've experienced on the earth, So that's it. I'm complete. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for sharing, Matthew. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's so good to be able to connect and find that oneness with, before I read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and like, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing? That kind of thing. And when I started like listening to Walter Dyer and like some Taoism stuff, and it's about the oneness, like being, my main focus is to try to be more at one with myself. And like you were saying, want to go with in the beginning, like it's that, it's all within. And the more I try to be at one with myself, the more everything else just kind of makes sense. Like, I don't know, is that weird? But, and that's why I love nature, because nature is perfect by nature. Like they're perfectly at home in their own environment. Humans, we need to we're not comfortable in our environment sometimes. We have to be in a certain way or something, but nature, they just seem to be comfortable in their environment. So I think that's what, as a living being, that's what we aspire to do, like to become one with ourselves and be comfortable with whoever we are, wherever we are, whatever we're doing. And as I'm traveling, I experience that, no matter where I am, there I am, right? Like, so, yeah.
Yeah. Another thought on that. You said, wherever I am, that's where I am, right? Well, I always, there's all these ideas that if you go somewhere else, you can have a completely different experience, right? But there's also the idea that wherever you go, you're taking yourself along. So it's really fascinating. So this whole thing, it's simply a similar idea of around the next corner, the grass is greener around the next corner, right? Is that how have you come to change that view? Because you were just saying, wherever I am, then you're not seeing it around the next corner, the grass is greener. You're not seeing it that way anymore.
Oh. It's funny you say that. Yeah. I used to tell people all the time that, they quit their job because they got a better job or something like that, or a better partner or whatever, or another partner. And I always said, like, the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence. It's the same grass. Like, it's the same wherever you go. It's how we view it and our perspective of it. Whether I'm walking in the desert or if I'm walking in the woods, it's the same. I don't know how to explain that, and people, no matter what race or religion or whatever they are, they're the same people. One experience I had many years ago, I was on I don't know what it's called, but the green on Washington, D.C., where the museums are, you know what I mean? Like, all the different museums are on either side, and in the middle is like the parade ground, or like the green way. And in the evening, they all close at 5. So there was like a mix of multiple different cultures, and you could hear them in their own language yelling at their children and things like that. Everybody was like tired, stressed out, whatever, like the long day of sightseeing in the museums or whatever. And it was so profound to me that I was like, oh, I knew exactly what they were saying, and I had no idea what they were saying. Does that make sense? So, yeah. So no matter where I am, there I am. And the same thing with people or the environment I am in is it's the same no matter where I go. Right? But yeah, the greener grass, it's not like chasing what's around the next corner or what's over the next hill. Is it going to be better over there? No, it's the same. I'll tell you right now, I don't even have to go there. I just know it's going to be the same over there as it is over there. It's just something I've learned, and so it's just a matter of where do you want to be and how do you want to be with yourself. Yeah. I didn't think this talk was going to get so profound, but thank you. I love sharing this.
Yeah, and I would like to ask you, you shared this, and it means, and you share it in a way that I have the impression it's a joyful message for you to say it's the same over there as it is here. Now I'd like to go deeper into that. Why is that so joyful for you?
To realize that everything is the same no matter where you are. It's how you view it. I don't know. Okay, like my house could burn up, gone, right? Okay, it's a traumatic experience. I lost all my possessions, my heirlooms, memories, gone. And that's how I view it. It depends how I view it. So like, okay, well now I'm going to get a new house. All right. So, and I can't stay stuck in what happened. I only look to the now. So what's around the next corner or the greener grass or whatever, I can't think about that. All I think about is what am I doing right here, right now, and to be happy with what I got at this moment. And then when I get over that next hill or whatever happens, then I know it's going to be great. So that's part of the uncertainty that I live with. We all have 6 human needs, and like certainty, uncertainty, in the growth and the different things that, that we need in our lives, significance, being invigorated for me is something that I like right now. Like going to see a movie you haven't seen yet, or going on that first date or something like that. That's invigorating. It's exciting. Like, I don't know what to expect, but then it turns out, oh, they're just another person too, just like me. And like, okay, this is cool or whatever. Or maybe they're not, but and then, yeah, I don't know. Like we can go in different directions with that, so, but it's exciting to me anyway, to not know what's around the next corner. I live with the Peter Pan syndrome. I was told never grow up. It's a trap. So that's, I follow how does Peter Pan with Tinkerbell say, follow to the last star on the left or something, or the last star on the right, something like that. And just keep going and going, and the adventures along the way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I liked your statement when you said, well, it's joyful here, so it's going to be joyful over there. So no matter where I go, I'm going to be happy. It's going to be fun, and it's going to be exciting.
Yep, that's it. That's that's the way you got to view things, like when you get in the car to go somewhere or take a trip, get on the plane, whatever it is. But when you're going to like take a trip somewhere, it's all exciting. Like, yes, I'm going to wherever, the islands, I don't know, whatever it is. It's all exciting. But then the trip goes on, then you can't wait to get home. How profound is that? Excuse me one sec. I have to close my door.
You wanted to say something, Julie, because you opened your mic?
Yeah. It's really interesting as I hear you speak, Ron. Everything you're talking about just like gives me this impression that you have such a solid sense of your own self and your boundaries. You're not looking for anybody else to meet your needs. You're tuning into what you need to do for yourself, and so many times people, me included, we think other people are gonna fix us or, give us that joy or whatever, and it just doesn't work that way. And it is just, I'm just hearing you speak about this joyfulness, and I think that is the key. We have to live from our own center.
Yes, absolutely. The relationship or the marriage that ended, prior to that, I tell people that was a hostage situation. No, I thought I was living the American dream or whatever, like have a job, have a place to live, have a wife, have a family. I thought that was what we're supposed to do. In a sense, yes, we were supposed to procreate and what is it? Just keep growing and create the family or whatever. And I forget the exact phrasing, but what I didn't realize was I wasn't there. I was living that. I was doing all the responsible, being productive, raising my kids, doing all those things, but I wasn't there. And until I learned me, then that's when things started changing. Yeah. So it's all letting go, believing in myself, and like the person. No, I love the person I see in the mirror today, and I love the life I'm living, and I just love it, and I have no fear. Like walking through the valley of the shadow of death. It's like that's just something that I believe and have faith, and I know it's going to be all right. So because of that, I've met people like you guys and many wonderful people along my journey. And it just makes me feel even that much more complete. And I've made so many connections and networks. My contact list is just growing and growing and growing. And I don't know, I love life and living life on my terms. But I learned too, not to have expectations and make plans, and to me, to learning who I am and what makes me happy, what makes me thrive is like a game changer, and I don't need to have a hostage anymore. I don't need to, I would love to be in a relationship, but I don't have to have one, it's like so many people that get out of a breakup or get out of a relationship and then they want to get into another one. Like I need somebody. I don't want to be alone. And I sure absolutely would love to have somebody, but at the same time, I'm okay with myself, so it's okay. And the right person, she'll come along. She's there waiting for me. I have faith. I believe that.
And now we'll wrap it up. We're coming to an end. So if anyone wants to reach out to you and connect with you, how can they do that?
I could put my Facebook link in the Telegram. Can I can I put stuff in there, or
you can do that, but give me the links as well so I can put it in the show notes. But you can, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm on WhatsApp, or I'll give you my email, my phone number. I don't know, but social media is probably the easiest way to contact me. Yeah, I don't know. I'll give it to you, and then you could just put it in the chats or whatever, however you want to disperse it. And if somebody wants to make contact with me or whatever, it'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to continue on the conversation, or any conversation.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, so you're open to any conversation that may come up. If people want to connect with you, you will respond, and then the connection can deepen. Okay. Thank you so much, Ron, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening and joining us and spreading the word. Please spread the word about this podcast. Subscribe, leave reviews, and do everything so that more people can benefit from what we are sharing here. So thank you so much, Ron, once again.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure for me too. So a blessing to everyone, and till next time.
All right. God bless.